lie there in that old curiosity
Just around the corner, there's a rainbow in the sky. So let's have another cup of coffee. Let's have another piece of pie. Trouble's just a bubble, and the clouds will soon roll by. So let's have another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie. Let a smile be your umbrella, for it's just an April shower. Even John D. Rockefeller is looking for the silver lining. Mr. Herbert Hoover says that now's the time to buy. So let's have another cup of coffee, and let's have another piece of pie.
Well, even though it hit 90 degrees for the second day in a row here today in Philadelphia, I have turned off the oscillating fan to keep it from blowing in your face. Pardon for that noise at the beginning, but it couldn't be avoided. Well, let's just dive right in and take a look at all this stuff, but I'll first off tell you that today's cup of coffee is brought to you by the Syracuse China Company.
A cup of coffee, a sandwich, and you, a cozy corner, a table for two.
There it is. I just finished a piece of homemade blueberry pie. Well, it wasn't made in my home, but it was made in someone's home that is very near and dear to me. And you probably didn't know it, but New Jersey is the 5th largest producer of blueberries in the country. So you thought all we had was billboards, big cities, the Jersey Shore. No, we also have really great blueberries too. So I was in the mood for a cup of coffee in a diner cup. Hold on for a second. Nothing better. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's get right back into it. I think I'm going to jump right in and start with this Art Deco clock because now that is the correct current time here on the East Coast. It is about 8 minutes before 7 p.m. And I've got the alarm set for 7 o'clock because I want you to see what it would sound like to wake up in the 1930s or early 40s to this particular alarm clock. So hopefully it doesn't scare the heck out of me when it goes off, but it's set and should go off in a few minutes. While we're talking about the clock, let's look at it. Can you appreciate the wonderful Art Deco design? In the numbers, the dial, everything about it. Very classic 1930s. And it works beautifully. I took it apart, cleaned it, oiled it. It doesn't even make any noise. You know, some of these old alarm clocks, they buzz, they hum. This one is as quiet as it can be. Great style on that. All right, let's look at some of the depression glass over here on the right. The little tumblers are called Block Optic, and that was made by the Hocking Glass Company from 1929 to 1933. It's an early depression pattern. And these are little 5.5-inch juice glasses for the breakfast table. That's also a Block Optic, what's called a, it's called a night set. And more specifically, tumble up night set. The tumbler on top sits on what would, I guess today we would call a carafe. And this would sit on your dresser or night table, and you could have ice water or water in there. So in the middle of the night, you have a coughing fit or a bad dream. You don't have to run down to the kitchen. You have a glass of water right there. Now, about 10, well, more like 15 to 20 years ago, this was valued at about $130 for the night set. I don't know what it would bring today. Certainly nowhere near that. And then I also recently picked up, not sure of the maker on this, but it's also from that same era. You can see clearly it's a depression green and sort of a diamond optic pattern. And this is a vase. And yes, this is all uranium glass, of course. Easily to see. And my actual first real pieces of tea room. Now, tea room was made from 1926 to 1931, and it was manufactured by the Indiana Glass Company, mostly for industrial use, commercial use, such as ice cream parlors, restaurants, tea rooms, that kind of thing. It's very heavy. Ah! Get up, get up. It's time to go to work. Okay, it did scare me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so, you know, the thing with these old clocks is I set it for 7 o'clock. It went off at 5 of, but that's about as accurate as we're going to get. Okay, not too bad. All right, back to what we were doing. What do you think? Would that actually get you up? It shocked me there. Back to the tea room. I found these two serving dishes here, which in the identification guides, they're calling these either celery dishes. I don't know that you'd be serving celery to anybody in that, but just basic serving dishes for whatever you'd like. I was excited to find two of these with no chips. There's a lot of many edges along here, as you can see, as geometric as it is, and you often find tea room all chipped up. And thrilled, no chips on either one of these. What a find. So I was really happy to get the pieces of tea room, which I'm not going to keep saying I'm keeping it because you guys already know that. Now this, wow. I walked into an actual, by the way, these were thrift shops here, you know, Goodwill, Salvation Army, and then some of the local thrift shops that are right here in the city in which I live. But this, I was on my way home from a flea market and I stopped in an actual antique shop and bought this. It was marked at $90, and I sweet talked the lady and got it down to, well, actually I didn't really sweet talk her. I just said, hey, I love it, what can you do? I thought she'd knock 10% off. She came back and said, you can have it for $70. So 20 bucks off, which was great. That telephone right there is worth about $150. It's a Northern Electric desk telephone, Art Deco from the mid to late 30s. And you'll notice immediately what's so unusual about it. It's not black in color. It has a wood effect. So this is actually Bakelite. We'll zoom in on it. And very reminiscent of the old radios. This sort of mottled Bakelite is very rare for a telephone. You just don't see it. And so, what a thrill! And yes, I'm old enough to have spent the first 20 years of my life doing this. There's a sound that you don't hear much anymore, but this phone is sweet. The dial is brass, and look how Art Deco the handset is. Very, very unusual and very difficult to find. And look, the mouthpiece down here, this is brass. The first one I've ever seen with a brass insert at the bottom. So I am absolutely going to be getting this baby working again. You don't need a subset for this, which means it actually has the bell on the inside. Telephones that were earlier than this, there'd be a separate subset that would have the bell in it. So what a great Art Deco find, and a very hard to find telephone with this awesome Bakelite. Now the other day, my fingernails were in horrible condition because I was rebuilding this baby. It's a 1936 Emerson Jr. B Jr. oscillating fan, as you can see. Now I haven't done anything to it cosmetically. I'm very conservative as far as that is concerned. There's no way I would take a can of black spray paint and do anything to this. I am going to do a little bit to bring back some of the color to the blades and the cage, but I'm certainly not going to repaint it. It has 2 speeds for oscillation, on-off, so no variable speed to the motor. The blades spin consistently, but it's great to have one that oscillates from this time period, and I'll try to let you see the back of it. So it was in good shape. These almost always need to be cleaned. This is a very reliable motor in this Emerson fan, and so even when I bought it untested, I was pretty certain that it would be in working condition, and I was pleased to find out that it was. And it really does purr like a kitten, as you just heard. So I've been using this and enjoying it. Back there is one Janeray plate by Fire King. They didn't, a lot of jadeite is reproduced, but Fire King, no one has reproduced the Janeray pattern, so you don't have to worry about possible reproductions. We can see there Fire King oven glass. It's almost always marked, but not all the time. You will occasionally find some pieces that are not marked, but it is still the authentic Fire King jadeite. Okay, I'm not going to pull this out, but it's a, I believe, United Potteries mid-1930s baking dish, which is in excellent condition. There are no chips or cracks or crazing on it, or any serious crazing on it, and I really like that. So now the things that you did already see were the L.E. Smith black glass vase, and this is the one with the dancing nymphs on the front from the 30s. You remember I had 2 of these. A lot of you are mad at me because I'm not keeping the second one. Oh, this light went out. There we go. There's really, I don't need 2, and these are very common. They were not sold in pairs, so it doesn't really add any extra value to have 2 of them, and I don't need 2, so I'm just keeping the one, and I'm going to sell the other one. This black L.E. Smith glass vase you did see in the last thrift haul, but I wanted to show you that again. And I'm still keeping that. And then the Cobalt shaker I think you saw, which is, I'm not sure of the maker, but I have a feeling it might be Hazel Atlas. And then there's all the Modern Tone, the Hazel Atlas Modern Tone in Cobalt, or actually Hazel Atlas referred to their blue as Ritz Blue. And what I've got there is 4 dinner plates, 4 dessert plates, 4 cups and saucers, a cream and sugar, and 2 cream soup bowls. So I need to get 2 more cream soup bowls, and I'll have basically a luncheon set. And there's the platter and the dessert, or the vegetable bowl. Inside the bowl are a bunch of vacuum tubes. Some of these I'm going to use in some radio repair, and then a couple of them I am actually going to sell. because they're rather valuable tubes. I won't bore you with vacuum tube history, but some of these, specifically these old radiotrons, date to the mid-1920s. And the 4 prongs on the bottom these are not easy to find, and I've got to get these tubes tested to see if they're still in good shape. If not, they still have value, believe it or not. The desk set, quintessential graduation gift. These have always been popular, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. This is made of onyx, and it was probably made sometime between 1935 and 1945. It's great. I often find these in single pieces, but not all together like this. So here's the letter opener and the ink blotter. For those who may not know, fountain pens, which this is, the ink was still quite wet when it would come out when you were signing checks or writing letters. And here we have a piece of green blotting paper still attached, and you can almost make out what was last blotted. You see that? So you would do this over whatever you were writing, like a signature or so forth, and it would keep it from smearing or smudging. Here's the letter holder, the pen holder with, I think, probably the original pen, fountain pen. It's great. All in onyx. And the calendar, which of course we can spin this for any month that we'd like. And if we turn it around to the back, if we slide it, we can change it so that the numbers match correctly. And I don't know what, well, here we are in August already, so this calendar will never go out of date. You don't have to pull any papers out of it or do anything to it. It's going to be good forever. Great to find a desk set like that. Now, if you thought this was a toy rocking horse, you now know better. It is also an ink blotter, but it is made of jadeite glass, or actually we would call this clam broth and not jadeite, or jadeite clam broth, or jade clam broth, because of its coloring. Now, I cannot remember the manufacturer of this. I think it's Howes Glass, H-O-U-Z, I think it's spelled. And as I said, this is not a toy rocking horse, it's an ink blotter. And I'm going to insert a photograph here to show you what it looks like with the ink blotter attached. There you can see the little metal clips and how the paper would be attached under the bottom. This one is missing its ink blotter and the metal attachment, but I kind of like it without it. I paid $8 for this at a flea market. I paid $20 for the desk set. Yeah. And then you saw me thrift these Scotties, I think last week. And then just a couple of days ago, I was somewhere else and found another one, obviously made by the same company in Japan. And these Scotties were all very popular in the 1930s and 40s. And I just really like the 1930s, 40s era Scotty dogs. This tin back here is screaming Art Deco. It's fantastic. And it's actually, well, let me see if I can get the lid open and I'll show you. Detecto Charm Box. Watches your weight. Entire contents and container. Copyright 1929. And my former college roommate, notice I've stopped calling him my old college roommate because he informed me recently that he's 2 years younger than I. So I cannot call him my old college roommate. I've got to call him my former. So I'm corrected. My former college roommate said he was watching a TV show and they had this exact tin on there, and that it contained weight loss tea bags, or what would be known as, in those days when people wanted to lose weight, they would call it reducing. I am reducing. So anyway, that's that little Art Deco box. Here's another tin, and these tins were made in a series. I'll let you see the bottom. It's called Beauty Box. And they featured silent film stars. So these boxes were all made, obviously, in the early 20s, before the advent of talking pictures. What year did the first talking picture come out, and what was its title? Do you remember? It was called The Jazz Singer with Al Jolson. And I think it was oh my goodness, was it 1925 or 28? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But this box here dates to the early 20s, and that is a silent film star named Betty Compson. The interesting thing about Betty Compson is she was successful in making the transition into talkies because her voice was considered pleasant and it recorded well. You know, some of the silent film stars, they were great as long as there was no sound, but as soon as they opened their mouths, didn't cut it. But she continued to make films into the 1930s, and I think she's probably almost completely forgotten today. But there's a whole series of these boxes, powder tins, that you can collect. This is the first one I've ever purchased. And it was only $1. I can't remember where I got it. Here's a black glass pedestal. Now, I don't know if Fenton made this or not. This is black glass, and it was meant to hold a vase or whatever piece of art glass you wanted to put on top of it. You remember I had a Chinese yellow Fenton vase which would have looked great on this. I sold it. But I'm going to search until I find a really nice jade art glass vase to display on that, because I think the combination of Clambroth green and jade green and black is really, really nice. So that's what maybe I'll just display him on there. He looks good. Back there, what a thrill it was when I found her. It's a beautiful glass statue. Doesn't it remind you of Christmas candy almost? Alright, warning, we're going to have a bare bottom here in a second, I think. Woo! Warned you. Let me stand up and have you get a better view of this. She's very well done. And she's marked on the back, made in England. This came from a thrift shop and it was less than $4. There are no chips or cracks on it. It dates to the 1930s. What is it? Now, sometimes these were flower frogs. Fenton made them. A lot of the glass companies made them. And they would have, obviously, a flower frog at the bottom, or they were meant to sit down into a circular hole inside of a larger bowl. This is not expensive glass. And it's something that could have been picked up very reasonably during the Depression.
Rollin', girls, rollin', everybody rollin', rollin' high or low just as you please. Don't let people tell you that it's shocking. Paint your sweetie's picture on your stocking. Laugh at mom, laugh at pom, give them all the ha-ha. Rollin' girlies, rollin'.
But, oh my goodness, you should have seen me when I found her. What an awesome piece. Actually, you know what? How about that? That looks great. Wow, I might have to just display it that way. Because the black glass really makes this uranium glass glow without even having a black light. You saw this little clock before. I ordered the spring. It did come in the mail. I just haven't had a chance to fix the clock yet. So that clock is not working, but it soon will be. And then, what did I pay for that? $8 or $7? I think I paid $7 for that. And I found it a couple of weeks ago. I've always wanted one of these. And I first saw one, well over 30 years ago when I got one of my first Art Deco price guides. I remember leafing through it. and seeing one of these Art Deco paper holders. Now this was not meant for a store display. You wouldn't put newspapers on this to sell. This was really meant for domestic use. And this could be on your breakfast table. And the folded up morning paper could be sitting on this, so you could have your cup of coffee and read your paper hands-free. It's got this copper finish to it. This one isn't dented. It's got hardly any scrapes on it. I mean, the condition of this is absolutely fantastic. This is exactly how it was manufactured, with this copper finish on it. No one has spray painted it. It's not been bented up or destroyed in any way. So I was spitless when I found it. That's a new one for you. You thought I was going to say detached retina, but I think I'm saying that too much. And then I think, let's see. Let me slide this back. And then back here, I actually collect old photographs like this. And this one is from a Newark, New Jersey high school. This one's dated 1925. Hope you can get to see this. And it's the football team. And I actually have a wall that just has a whole bunch of these athletic pictures on it. And the collection really started when I got my grandparents' pictures from 1929 to 1933. My maternal grandparents were high school sweethearts, both very talented athletes, and I have all of their sport pictures from that era, and that makes up the centerpiece. And then I have a collection of these other sports teams all around it. Okay, so back up again. So there you go. As you can see, I really enjoy the design of the 1930s. It doesn't always have to be Art Deco, but there's a huge Art Deco influence in all of these items that you see here. And at least for the moment, I plan on keeping everything that you see. I'm not so sure I'm ready to part with any of these things, because I really am attracted to all of these items that you see right here. So I want to thank the subscriber who asked me about what I like and what do I keep for myself. And I hope you enjoyed watching. This is Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop saying thanks for watching, and so long for now.